Hey everybody, welcome to TFT, Tarot for Today. Divine Dabblings with
Oberon. I know, I'm thinking like, which name am I using?
And me, Banshee, also known as Alan and Barb. There, we used them all.
Mrs. Banshee.
Mrs. B, which take that whatever way you want.
But anyways, this is your
weird week. And boy, let me just say, last week was really a weird week to top all the weird weeks we had.
Now, if you're very new here, this is our collective reading for mostly world, national type events where we seek to see if there's something going on there that's a little deeper we can get at, maybe see what directions things are going in.
Now, clearly, we don't hear everything that's going on, say in Spain, France, Britain. You know, we understand that. So what we get in our cards, maybe you yourselves can apply to what's going on in your neck of the woods. But we're going to talk about last week, and my goodness, what an active, crazy week it was.
Here's what happened.
Number one, Trump faced a judge. He had been indicted and he faced a judge in criminal court. Enough said about that. There's lots of opinions about that. We'll see how the cards unfold and how this relates. I think you're going to see a corollary here to almost every one of these events. Number two, Tennessee Democratic legislatures decided to expulse 2 Democratic members out of 3, deciding only to expulse the 2 black members and leaving the white woman on the legislature. And I have a lot of opinions about that.
Incredibly trumped up charges that had nothing to do with...
Whatever the case may be, it's clearly this expulsion type of scenario is very unevenly applied. Because there's been a lot of other shenanigans and kind of unethical people in that legislature that have never been, expulsed. All right. Number 3 is mifepristone, the court decision that is outlawing the sale or the mailing of the abortion drug.
The literal use of it.
The literal use of it, which of course some of these drugs I think are always used in other health-related issues. So this is really problematic. But number 4, the Wall Street Journal reporter was being held and charged with espionage in Russia. How about Clarence Thomas's revelations? Number 5, and these are not in order of importance, obviously. Clarence Thomas's revelations that he has been taking money, or it came out that he has been taking money from a real rich, wealthy donor who happens to own a lot of Nazi paraphernalia and swears up and down that they've just been good friends for years and he is not trying to influence anything. Number 6, intensified fighting in the Middle East. Israel's been bombing in Syria. I believe Israel's been bombing in Lebanon. There have been attacks in Israel. There's just a big mess brewing again in the Middle East. Number 7, China's provocative military exercises surrounding Taiwan. And yes, this has been very provocative. They've actually been sitting there and mapping out the plans to attack Taiwan's capital city. Missouri. Something came out about Missouri refusing to cooperate with the alcohol, tobacco, firearms, governmental body because they have decided on their own that all gun laws are unconstitutional. All of them. And number 9, the House threatening to defund the FDA if they challenge this mifepristone ruling. And also, with that, let's look at the Tennessee legislature that's threatening to defund Memphis and the cities that want to put those 2 expulsed legislators back in office, the legislators that they voted for. That's our weird week in a nutshell. I'm sure there must have been more going on, huh?
It could very well be. And the funny thing is, as we said earlier, the mere 5 cards we pulled in context of their meaning actually apply more or less to all of these things that we just talked about.
Now, a lot of those cards are very positive in scope. And what we have to remember here is that in all of these scenarios, there are winners and losers, And so some people feel the positive aspects of these cards that they won, while others have not felt that way. So,
it's binary.
But also you could look at those positive cards in the context of what has happened here. We're going to do that briefly right now. And I think you'll be able to make some connections. We'll throw some out there, but we're going to be brief. Because, there's 9 things. Right? Okay. The first card, of course, was the major focus or theme. And we had judgment upright. Boy, there's been a lot of that going on. There's been a lot of judgment going on. There's been a lot of deciding what's ethical, what's not. And also karma is playing a role in some of this. What you sow, you reap, such as in the Trump indictment. One could argue with the Tennessee Democrats' expulsion, they deserved this. They pulled this upon themselves for protesting in the legislature. One could also argue that the Republicans are getting it back too because of the expulsion and singling out the black men and really talking down to them. If you heard the court, the proceedings going on.
Oh, it was incredibly smarmy talk down to these people. I'm not as into looking at those phrases there, but just saying that in general, there's a sense here with judgment that this is about a weekend or week of really righteous things happening, whether you agree or not. Somebody thought they were righteous. But of course, there is the flip side, which is what we're talking about.
All of these things. China feels they have the right to do what they're doing. Missouri feels the right they have to create their own idea with sans court decisions on what's constitutional and what's not as far as gun laws go.
Clarence
Thomas deciding his own, ethics here. Oh, no, it was okay to take this money and not report it.
Or that they don't really need to police themselves.
Yes, that came out this week as well. Mm-hmm. Justice Roberts said something about that. Well, we don't need to police ourselves. Okay, so enough of that. Let's go on to card 2, which is what we will find out or see, the mysteries, the secrets tarot. What we will find out or see was the 3 of Wands upright. I think what we're going to find out and see is a lot of things involving long-term planning here, or plans maybe that have already been in the works to some degree that are now coming to fruition, right?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I talked to a couple friends who are amateur historians, and they've talked about some of the China stuff for a few years, and they said China plays the long game. But I think that idea is applied here in some of the things that are going on, especially with the attack on women's rights and other issues relating to conservative movement. There's a long game that is being enacted here.
Well, look how long it took to indict Trump.
Even on that.
Exactly. And all the other indictments that are still pending, but that did not come out this week.
Thank you for being objective.
I wasn't I?
You were. That was totally
okay.
objective.
The Tennessee Democrat legislators thing, well, I think some of this was kind of planned out too, in that, they are looking for ways to minimize the power of these Democratic regions in their state. Mm-hmm. And that even came out with a thing I didn't mention that's happening in Missouri too, where they are trying to change voting law just for one election. And that is to remove John Tester, the Democrat, as senator so they want to change election law so they can influence one election in the state.
Right, and Tennessee is not really the only state that is trying to do things like this. That basically,
well, you mean Missouri too, right?
Missouri too,
right?
But,
well, we just talked about the FDA, trying to, the House threatening to defund them, Tennessee. So what I'm saying
everybody has a long game.
Everybody's got a long game. China is moving theirself through the motions of getting closer to war with Taiwan. Russia is playing its long game by holding these prisoners like Paul Whelan, who's still there, and, now this Wall Street reporter. And, I really think the U.S. has to drive a harder bargain here.
Israel has a long game.
Israel definitely has a long game that they've been playing. So a lot of that applies. Let's move on to card 3. What other perspectives need to be considered? And that's where we have the card where we can look at the upright and reversed interpretations.
The Tarot of Oppositions.
And it was the King of Wands.
So we look at both his right side and his upside down iconography and meanings, and what we find is that these represent good and bad actors depending on your determination of that on either side. And so that's what we find is that all of this has to take into account that by their own measure of good or bad, there are these various forces that are enacting their scenarios, their long games,
and the good and bad actors. I mean, you can see it in Tennessee. Or can you? Some people might think the legislator did the right thing. Others will think that those legislators are the positive, upright King of Wands. You know, the Trump trials. Some might think the prosecutor is, you know, the devil incarnate. While, you know, Trump is not. And vice versa, actually. You know, others will think it's Trump. Putin, you know, China and Taiwan. I mean, it goes on.
You know, when you think of the King of Wands in its normal countenance of upright as a very bright, illuminating, charismatic figure, this is really a reading about binary things. Almost everything has some sort of sense of binary, this way or that way. And it's no surprise that at the center of that, the Tarot of Oppositions, the third card, is this quality that is one or the other. It's very stunning.
So, what is the overall impact? And we had the Wheel of Fortune there. Oh my gosh. You know, now the Wheel of Fortune in its positive aspects should be good. But, you know, when you read about the tarot cards, there is this admonitions, you know. It also depends on the situations and your karma. You know, your karma can play a role in how the wheel spins for you. And I feel here that we're seeing a lot of karma being played out here. Destiny and fate are at stake.
Outcomes will be mixed. Some will have better outcomes, some will not.
These are really precarious times, and the wheel is about a bit of uncertainty. Positive and negative.
And, you know, the wheel is always turning, so therefore what is up now could be down very soon.
Exactly.
Or vice versa.
Exactly. And finally, we ended up with what wins or not, which we say not, wins the weird week. It was the Queen of Swords reversed. Some bad decision making going on here. Some clouded judgment. You know, for example, the Vespertine court decision. The person who made this decision is clearly biased. Clearly. He has no medical background. He made decisions that were not based on science, were based on his beliefs in the right to life. Let's just call it as it is. I'm trying to be unbiased on this, but from his background, this is what I see.
And, you know, their perspective is they are doing a very righteous thing because it's about children, lives, even though measurably it's microscopic. But the point is that the Queen of Swords reversed also has a very big quality of harshness. Whether it is a right thing to do, a righteous thing to do or not, it is done in a harsh manner. The decision is made harshly.
In the Trump indictment, some may think that this was just way major overreach and a bad decision to try this case, while others don't feel, you know, that, well, while others might be looking at Trump right now and saying what bad decisions he's making, threatening the judge and his family.
China's decision right now to be provocative, or even the states, Missouri, Tennessee, with their provocative actions, these are all very harsh and maybe not as disciplined as we should think they should be decisions.
The intensified fighting in the Middle East, for crying out loud, from all sides is bad, you know, bad decision, because come on, this is a time when all three of the major religions were worshiping together. Yeah. I mean, their holidays at the same time. You would think we could have a pause all the way around in this type of activity. But no, bad decisions once again being made.
So that was last week.
To you.
That was last week.
That's enough. And you can see, wow, it was a crazy, crazy week, everybody. We're in interesting times.
Last week may still have repercussions going forward.
So holy moly, let's get on with it. What could
All right.
happen this week? All right. So I go
Card
first. I do. I'm going to move my tablet here. And the first card is the major focus and or tone for the week. And for that, we use my twin tarot deck, which is 2 major arcana decks, and one is upright meetings, one is reversed. Let's see what's happening now. And it also shows that sometimes when you get good cards and in context to what happens in, what actually is the outcome, you have to really look at them and dissect what they really were trying to tell us. And I think we've got it here. So let's see what's out there this week, huh?
So what's the major focus or theme?
Well, it's positive. It's temperance. And don't we need that? Don't we need things to calm down?
It's very nice coming
bit?
after Easter. The week following Easter is a nice time for maybe people to be a little more reflective about, qualities that are suggested by temperance.
I mean, oh my goodness, we should be, trying to calm ourselves down after all of this. I mean, on some level, I am sure, like in Tennessee, I don't know if that's going to hold. There's a lot of protests that have been going on there. There's been a lot of protests that have been going on, also women's rights and the abortion movement, the fighting in the Middle East. We need some calm. We need cooler heads to prevail. We need some balance.
Well, for no particular reason, I tend to think this may have to do with more international things than what's going on here in the States.
Maybe.
There may be some reason applied to some situations, but I think overall this may be talking about some of the things that are upsetting world tensions now. There may be some immediate action by various summits or UN committees or various other situations that maybe will try to bring some heads together to talk about it.
Well, you know what? That's interesting, actually, Mr. O, because...
something's going on?
No, I think that I have another thought here that maybe... Temperance Upright is just saying this might be a calmer, more balanced week overall. Maybe this week, not a lot of turbulence. Things will kind of settle a bit. But let's see what our other cards hold. And what are you doing, Mr. O? Card 2
The Secret's Tarot.
What will we find out or see?
And the implication there is, of course, that this is something that we probably do, in fact, need to know. It would be good to know this.
So this is good for April 10 through 15.
Well, it's the 10.
No, 16.
It's the 10 of Cups.
Oh, very good.
It is the 10 of Cups. And so what we need to know, I think, is that if we put more faith in our values of where we are kindred, where we have commonalities, maybe we can find a way to enjoy some sort of sense of the union of humankind here, the family represented being the sense of the family of man or humankind, throughout the world.
I agree. Maybe that's why there is going to be a little bit more balance and harmony. Well, it could also mean that maybe some tensions will ease in the Middle East. That people will start to, if China is finishing their military operations, things might, be tense, but things might calm a little bit. So I think that this is the trend right now by the looks of those cards, eh? So now we're doing the Tarot of Oppositions to find out
what are the perspectives?
What other perspectives need to be considered?
And we both shuffled that one.
Yes.
I hear the little night birds out there chirping.
You go, Mr. O.
Deck is so stiff.
It's a thicker deck. It's a thicker stock. I love the cards. They're beautiful.
I love the deck. I don't like the shuffling of it.
I'll take it back from you. Oh, that's right. It's a shared deck. Well, it looks to be the upright, you can correct me if I'm wrong, King of Swords.
You are correct.
I like to see that card upright. That's for darn sure. And it's interesting, but remember, we look at both aspects here. Yeah. And so, the thing is, last week, we had the King of Wands in that position. And now we have another king, and he can be a dangerous fellow in his reverse state. So let's look at here. What other factors need to be considered? Well, I guess what factors need to be considered is what the good and the bad actors do. That's the simple of it. But I would say this, to me, seems to indicate it might involve legal matters.
Yes, right, because there is a legal aspect to the King of Swords, obviously. I myself tend to think more of the non-one at times, or maybe in this context, because, of course, there is a sense of conquering, so this could be about expansionary ideas from a good point or a bad point, and depending on sovereign nations, it's not ever a good point, is it? But
No.
So I think that in context, it is maybe more about the legal things. And it may be saying that there are really going to be in any of these areas of what's going on, whether last week or to come, certain questions of legal competence or legal assuredness. And of course, with things we saw going on last week, there are definitely going to be lots of legal challenges to some of the things going on here.
My hope is, with all the positive cards so far, and also, even though we do consider both aspects of that card, I tend to give a little bit more weight to what appears at the top. Is it going to be upright at the top or reversed? So what I'd like to think is maybe there'll be some reasonable court decisions to switch some things back around. Or at the very least, to me, it looks as though there might be some stays. In other words, things that were planning to take effect may not. And that could be anything. Let's say, for example, I don't even know, let's say President Biden had something right now that was going to go in effect and somebody tried to block it and there'd be a stay. In other words, no side wins, no side loses, there's just a stay.
This could also be about the process of appeals that may begin with some of these factors or other ones that haven't shown up yet. And of course, again, the nod is given towards the appeal working out for the better, depending on the situation. But it could be either way.
You know what, Mr. O?
No,
I can't help but wonder there if this is saying, what this is talking about, remember, we have to say what other factors need to be considered, is again, maybe how evenly divided things are right now,
yes.
How equally divided between, positive energies and growth and negative energies and, backtracking or stagnation is here. And that there is this real stalemate between, those two.
Right. There's nothing non-binary going on at all. A lot of times people look at the governments of other countries and find that because they have something that's more parliamentarian, that these factions need to find the ways to cooperate, to have power. But it's not like that here because it's only one or the other.
That's right. So card 5 is what is the overall impact? And I use my Healing Light Tarot for that. Oh dear. Well, I have problems with some of my decks too.
I know. And as you can tell by the timestamp earlier, this was filmed on Easter Sunday in the evening. So if we look a little tired, we had some turkey, and the tryptophan may be kicking in.
But we're still clear-headed enough to do this reading for you.
Well, both of us have always been politically keen and semi-involved on various levels, whether it was just about kind of understanding it and maybe, you know, debating ourselves or debating other people, or whether it was looking at it as how we could use this to instruct our children or for other people who possibly needed that.
All right. All right, so what is the overall impact of all of this? Okay. I like it. It's the 9 of, is it the 9 or the 6? Let me look.
It's a 6, isn't it?
Oh, no, it's the...
Why is it upside down?
Whoops, it's the 6. You're right. I got confused.
Of swords, right?
The 6 of swords upright.
Bam. So the overall impact is those who need to go, or all who need to go, will go. There may be people who will go that don't need to go.
What do you mean? Go where?
Go where? Go away from the troubling waters. Go towards more secure shores.
Well, I think people want things, I think maybe, you know, overall. Okay, let's face it. What's happened in Tennessee, for example, last week, I'm just going to fall on that for an example. The Republicans want things to calm down now because it doesn't look good. What happened? They really would like things, and even with the abortion issue, it says losing voters, losing young voters, so maybe they want things to kind of settle and be quiet. Other factions, you know, say the Democratic Party, etc., just want all of this to calm down. Let's stop fighting with each other. Let's stop taking rights away, and let's try to work together. Let's stop trying to expose people. Let's try to come together. Well, we'll see, you know, and the Democrats aren't perfect in that regard.
Couldn't this be people moving towards another party that they think is better suited for them? Couldn't this also be people moving to any political involvement because they had been sleeping and now they realize that they have to get involved?
Well, you know, we're talking U.S. issues here, but we'll be checking out the world stuff. But you know what?
It could be related to some things too, perhaps.
There is a point to be made here that whatever's going on in your neck of the woods, in your world, could be influencing people to move one way or another wherever they feel the most comfortable, the safest.
Moving away from troubled waters.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why the overall trend right now does seem to be a calming influence for next week.
Yes, I think that's true, with people having the time to think about these things and where they see it, you know, playing out in their lives.
Well, Mr. O, you know, we're at that point. Card 5,
yes.
What could win the weird week?
And I use the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot, the beautiful deck by Rodney Wayne, a Jamaican immigrant who came to New York and became a fabulous artist. These cards are totally beautiful. The Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot. What can win the weird week?
I thought I'd... Oh.
You don't do
that.
Only on the shared phone.
Where? That's all right. Stalemate.
2 of Swords.
You know what could win the weird week for once? If absolutely nothing happens.
If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
All these decisions lately have been, you know, all over the place.
We are choosing to not decide for now.
People coming up with laws, people making their own laws, people circumnavigating laws. What the heck? So if we could only just stand still for a while, and how about using our heads to really start to think things through?
Well, what wins the week, I guess, is really realizing that we can't stay in stasis, too, that we have to take a choice. We have to take a stand, and we need to know more. You cannot make a decision unless you are informed. This is about that, making an informed decision.
Right. The Two of Swords is standing still, but ultimately they know, if you have that card, you have to make a decision, or the danger is it could be made for you.
There you go.
Right? And you don't want that to happen. So the thing is, that's the point here. Maybe strategies have to be thought out. World strategies, your world leaders have to start thinking about what they're doing. Our judicial system, some of these judges, Clarence Thomas, have to think about what they are doing. All of it.
Sing it, sister.
Okay, no.
But there are three.
Hallelujah.
We're going to rework this now, but I want to start off by saying there are 3 swords in these 5 cards. There is one major arcana and 1 cup. So this does represent a lot of consternation, a lot of opposition to views, a lot of people trying to figure out their place, where they're at in this joust.
I really, really like you mentioning that, because basically we think it's going to be a calmer or more thoughtful week where there's going to be a lot of strategizing, probably a lot of media talk about all of these events and what they mean, and maybe whatever else may come to pass. But I think overall, maybe we have a quiet week. Yeah, but those swords are indicating it's not going to be easy keeping that peace.
Because the underlying thread here is that there are things that are troubling and that people need to know more about or figure out how they can move into a better direction. How they
people
can make
want moves to happen.
How they can make decisions that are valuable to themselves.
So are we going to recap this quickly, or do you think we did?
Well, no, let's do it a little more.
I'm going to throw 1 and 2 together there, really, to say that, with the major focus, and what we'll find out or see is that, more people are going to be coming together, I feel here, and there's going to be balance and harmony. It could be the people who are trying to make changes and trying to influence things are going to be pulling, ranks together to try to come up with solutions and to make sure everybody is happily on the same page.
Right. It's very important at this time, I think, for people to kind of have a sense of coming together and realizing that they do have options and that everybody really is in this all together.
And number 3, of course, is what other perspectives need to be considered. And of course, we have the king. We look at it multifacetedly and saying that, there are positives that may come out of this. There are negatives that may come out of this. It almost seems like a stalemate right now, though, between between powerful forces. Let me just say it that way.
And because of the nature of really looking at this card as both cards, there's 2 swords there, and there's 2 swords there. So it reinforces that idea of the stalemate that we ended up at.
And card 4, the overall impact is the 6 of Swords. Don't we all want to break? Don't we just all want to break in this never-ending news cycle of insanity?
So maybe that is going to happen. Maybe it is true that some things will prevail that will make people able to move to their more comfort zones. And as we continue, what looks to be maybe a possibility for healing.
If nothing else, it may indicate that people are looking for their safe zones. They're choosing their sides. And, they will be, maybe they will be trying to seek more peace. They're doing this just to find peace of mind.
Well, so finally then the 2 of Swords at the end could be saying really that we remain separated on some level.
Well, there's a duality there for sure. It's a 2 card, but it's definitely a stalemate. But we know that moves and changes have to come. Decisions have to be made one way or another. And,
And, a lot of this we put into maybe our national USA stuff, but this could easily apply to most of the other things that we started off the program with. It could apply to what's going on with Russia or wars in general.
Or something new. But from the way our cards look, I really want to believe there's going to be more things maybe happening under the scenes and not anything that's going to be really monumental. Hey, but we'll see if we're right or wrong on that one. Every week seems to bring its own new drama.
I know.
So we might have to revisit these cards and look again. But this is what we have for your weird week. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Same time, same place.
Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.